Debian is an operating system composed of free software mostly carrying the GNU General Public License, and developed by an internet collaboration of volunteers aligned with the Debian project. It is one of the most popular Linux distributions for personal computers and network servers, and has been used as a base for other Linux distributions. Debian was announced in 1993 by Ian Murdock, and the first stable release was made in 1996. The development is carried out by a team of volunteers guided by a project leader and 3 foundational documents. New distributions are updated continually and the next candidate is released after a time-based freeze. As one of the earliest distributions in Linux's history, Debian was envisioned to be developed openly in the spirit of Linux and GNU. This vision drew the attention and support of the Free Software Foundation, who sponsored the project for the first part of its life. Features: Debian is primarily a Linux distribution with access to online repositories hosting over 37,500 software packages. Debian is officially made of free software but hosts non-free software on its repositories. Debian includes popular free programs such as LibreOffice, Openssl, Evolution Mail, K3BCD DVD Burner, VLC Media Player, GIMP Image Editor and Evince Document Viewer. Debian is a popular choice for web servers. The cost of developing all the packages included in Debian 5.0 Lenny has been estimated to be about $8 billion, using one method based on the COCOMO model. As of 2014, OLO estimates that the code base would cost about $1.5 billion to develop, using a different method based on the same model. The current stable release, codenamed Wheezy, is officially supported on 11 architectures and brought support for 2 new architectures, S390X and ARMHF. Notable new features in this latest release include, MultiArch, which allows 32-bit Linux software to run on 64-bit operating system installs. UEFI support for AMP64. Improved multimedia support, reducing reliance on third-party repositories. Compiled packages with hardened security flags. APP Armor, which can protect a system against unknown vulnerabilities. And Systemed, which shipped as a technology preview. Kernels, Debian 6.0 introduced a new kernel, the Debian GNU FreeBSD kernel. This project's new kernel is released as a technology preview and still lacks the amount of software available as on Debian's Linux. KFreeBSD is offered for Intel 32 Armenian DRAMs-bit and 64-bit architecture machines. Debian now supports 2 kernels, Linux and KFreeBSD, and offers GNU Herd unofficially. Installation: Debian offers DVD and CD images for installation that can be downloaded using BitTorrent, with Jigdo and bought from retailers. The full sets are made up of several disks, but only the first disk is required for installation, as the installer can retrieve software not contained in the first disk image from online repositories. Installation images are hybrid on some architectures and can be used to create a bootable USB drive. The Wheezy release offers to install a variety of default desktops from its DVD boot menu and from special Disk 1 CDs. The Debian installer includes aids for visually impaired people, featuring in Wheezy a text dual mode that performs audio output for each stage of installation. Debian offers different network installation methods. A minimal install of Debian is available via the netinst CD, whereby Debian is installed with just a base and later additional software can be downloaded from the Internet. Another option is to boot the installer from the network. Desktop environments. Debian offers CD images specifically built for GNOME, KDE software compilation, XFCE and LXDE Mate is officially supported, while Cinnamon is not ready to be released as of July 2014. Less common window managers such as Enlightenment, OpenBox, Fluxbox, IceWM, Window Maker and others are available. It was previously suggested that the default desktop environment of version 7.0 Wheezy may be switched to XFCE, because GNOME 3 might not fit on the first CD of the set. In November 2013 it was announced that the desktop environment of version 8.0 Jessie would change to XFCE. Demand for XFCE will be evaluated and the default environment may switch back to GNOME again just before Jessie is frozen. Blends. Debian Pure blends are subsets of a Debian release configured out of the box for users with particular skills and interests. For instance, Debian Jaya is targeted at children. The complete Debian distribution includes all available Debian Pure blends. Debian Blend is a term for a Debian-based distribution that strives to mainstream, improving Debian as a whole. Consequently, all extras offered by blends will either become part of Debian, or are temporary workarounds to solve a need of the target group which cannot yet be solved within Debian. Debian Live. Debian releases live install images for CDs, DVDs and USB thumb drives, for IA32 and x86-64 architectures, and with a choice of desktop environments. These Debian Live images allow the user to boot from removable media and run Debian without affecting the contents of their computer. A full install of Debian to the computer's hard drive can be initiated from the Live image environment. Personalized images can be built with the Live build tool for CD USB drives and for network booting purposes. Embedded systems. Debian supports a variety of ARM-based NAS devices. The NSLU2 was supported by the installer in Debian 4.0 and 5.0, and Martin Miklmer is providing installation tarballs since version 6.0. Other supported NAS devices are the Buffalo Corobox Pro, GLA N-Tank, Thecus N2100 and QNAP turbo stations. Devices based on the Kirkwood SoC are supported too, such as the Shiva Plug computer and OpenRD products. There are efforts to run Debian on mobile devices, but this is not a project goal yet since the Debian Linux kernel maintainers would not apply the necessary patches. Nevertheless, there are packages for resource-limited systems. There are efforts to support Debian on other hardware, such as automobiles and wireless routers. Debian is known to run on set-top boxes. As of June 2014, there is an ongoing work to support the AM335X processor, which is used in electronic point-of-service solutions. Debian may be customized to run on cache machines. Package management. Package management operations can be performed with different tools available on Debian, from the lowest level command dpkg to graphical front-ends like Synaptic. The recommended standard for administering packages on a Debian system is the Apt Tools set. dpkg provides the low-level infrastructure for package management. The dpkg database is located under libdpkg. The status file contains the list of installed software on the current system. The dpkg command tool does not know about repositories. The command can work with local deb package files as well as information from the dpkg database. Apt Tools for repositories. An Apt tool allows administration of an installed Debian system for retrieving and resolving package dependencies from repositories. Apt tools share dependency information and cache packages. Aptitude is a command tool and offers a TUI interface. The program comes with enhancements such as better search on package metadata. apt-get and apt-cache are command tools of the standard apt class toolset. apt-package apt-get installs and removes packages, and apt-cache is used for searching packages and displaying package information. The Debi tool and other front ends. Debi is an apt tool which can be used in command line and on the GUI. Debi can install a local deb file via the command liner like the dpkg command, but with access to repositories to resolve dependencies. Other graphical front ends for apt include Software Center, Synaptic and APA. Distributions. The Debian project offers at least 3 maintained distributions, also called releases, at any one time. Packages which comply with the Debian Free Software Guidelines, usually under the GNU General Public License, Modified BSD License or Artistic License, are included inside the main area. Official, main distributions are the following: Stable, currently aliased Wheezy, is the current release and targets stable and well-tested software needs. Stable is made by freezing testing for a few months where bugs are fixed and too buggy packages are removed. Then the resulting system is released as stable. It is updated only if major security or usability fixes are incorporated. Stable CDs and DVDs can be found in the Debian website. Debian officially supports the optional backports service for this distribution. The backports repository provides users of stable with more recent versions of some software. Testing, currently alias Jessie, is the preview release that will eventually become the next major release. The packages included in this distribution have had some testing in unstable, but they may not be fit for release yet. It contains newer packages than stable but older than unstable. This distribution is updated continually until it enters the frozen state. Testing CDs and DVDs can be found on the Debian website. Unstable, permanently aliased SID, is the development release and is updated continually. Packages are accepted without checking the distribution as a whole. This distribution is usually run by software developers who participate in a project and need the latest libraries available, and by those who prefer bleeding-edge software. Debian does not provide SID installation CDs DVDs. This distribution can be installed through a system upgrade from testing. Other distributions in Debian, All Stable, currently aliased Squeeze, is the prior stable release. It is supported until 1 year after a new stable is released. Eventually, All Stable is moved to a repository for archived distributions. Experimental is a temporary staging area of highly experimental software that is likely to break the system. It is not a full distribution and missing dependencies are commonly found in Unstable, where new software without the damage chance is normally uploaded. The snapshot archive provides older versions of the distributions. They may be used to install a specific older version of some software. Archive areas. The Debian Free Software Guidelines define their distinctive meaning of the word free as in free and open source software. In accordance with these guidelines, a relatively small number of packages are excluded from the distribution's main area and included inside the non-free and contrib areas. These last two areas are not officially part of Debian. The project offers its distribution without these areas but can be adopted manually after initial setup. Non-free includes packages which do not comply with the DFSG, such as documentation with invariant sections in proprietary software, and legally questionable packages. Contrib includes packages which do comply with the DFSG, but may fail other requirements. For instance, they may depend on packages which are in non-free or require such for building them. Richard Stallman and the Free Software Foundation have criticized the Debian project for hosting the non-free repository and because the contrib and non-free areas are easily accessible, an opinion echoed by some in Debian including the former project leader Kurt Ackerman. The internal dissent in the Debian project regarding the non-free section has persisted, but the last time it came to a vote in 2004, the majority decided to keep it. Multimedia Support. Multimedia support has been problematic in Debian regarding codecs threatened by possible patent infringements, without sources or under too restrictive licenses, and regarding technologies such as Adobe Flash. Even though packages with problems related to their distribution could go into the non-free area, software such as libdvd CSS is not hosted at Debian. There is a notable third-party repository, formerly known as debian-multimedia.org, providing software not present in Debian such as Windows codecs, libdvd CSS and the Adobe Flash Player. Despite that this repository is maintained by Christian Murillat, a Debian developer, it is not part of the project, neither is hosted at Debian. As a matter of fact, the repository provides packages already included in Debian, interfering with the official maintenance. Eventually, project leader Stefano Zaccaroli asked Murillat to either settle an agreement about the packaging or to stop using the Debian name. Murillat chose the latter and renamed the repository to deb-multimedia.org. The repository was so popular that the end of debian-multimedia.org was announced by the official blog of the Debian project. Hardware support. Hardware requirements are at least those of the kernel and the GNU tool sets. Debian GNU Linux supports uniprocessor and symmetric multiprocessor systems. Debian's recommended system requirements differ depending on the level of installation. which corresponds to increased numbers of installed components. The real minimum memory requirements depend on the architecture and may be much less than the numbers listed in this table. It is possible to install Debian with as little as 20 MB of RAM for S390, or 60 MB of RAM for x86-64. The installer will run in low memory mode and it is recommended to create a swap partition. Similarly, disk space requirements, which depend on the packages to be installed, can be reduced by manually selecting the packages needed. As of June 2014, there is no pure blend that would lower the hardware requirements easily, though there are plans to integrate TeamDB and grep into Debian. It is possible to run graphical user interfaces on older or low-end systems, but the installation of window managers instead of desktop environments is recommended, as desktop environments are more resource-intensive. Requirements for individual software vary widely and must be considered as well as those of the base operating environment. Architecture ports. Official ports. As of the Wheezy release, the official ports are AMP64, x86-64 architecture designed for 64-bit PCs, with the goal of supporting both 32-bit and 64-bit userland, ARML, Little Endian ARM architecture on various embedded systems, ARMHF, ARM hard float architecture requiring hardware with a floating point unit, i386, IA32 architecture designed for 32-bit PCs, compatible with 64-bit machines, IA64, Intel Itanium architecture, FreeBSD64, kernel of FreeBSD on x86-64 architecture, FreeBSD i386, kernel of FreeBSD on IA32 architecture, MIPS, Big Endian MIPS architecture, MIPSL, Little Endian MIPS architecture, PAC, PowerPC architecture, S390, Z architecture with 32-bit userland, S390X, Z architecture with 64-bit userland, SPARC, Sun SPARC architecture on Sun 4U and Sun 4V systems. There used to be an ARM port using an old ABI that was last included with the Lenny release. Unofficial ports. Unofficial ports are available as part of the unstable distribution, Alpha DEC Alpha architecture, ARM64, 64-bit ARMv8 architecture, HPPA, HP-PA RISC architecture, HERD i386, GNU HERD kernel on IA32 architecture, M68K, Motorola 68K architecture on Amiga, Atari, Macintosh and various embedded VME systems, PAXP, PowerPC SPE architecture, incompatible with PowerPC, PPC64, PowerPC 64 architecture supporting 64-bit PowerPC CPUs with VMX, SH4, Hitachi Super H architecture, SPARC 64, Sun SPARC architecture with 64-bit userland. X32, userland with 32-bit pointers for x86-64, localization. Several parts of Debian are translated into languages other than English, including package descriptions, configuration messages, documentation and the website. The level of software localization depends on the language, ranging from the highly supported German and French to the hardly translated Creek and Samoan. The installer is available in 73 languages. Derivatives. Debian GNU Linux is one of the most popular Linux distributions, and many other distributions have been created from the Debian code base, including Ubuntu and Knappix. As of 2014, DistroWatch lists 139 active Debian derivatives. The Debian project provides its derivatives with guidelines for best practices and encourages derivatives to merge their work back into Debian. A sign of cooperation with Ubuntu can be seen in the Debian package tracker. Policies. Debian is known for its manifesto, social contract, and policies. Debian's policies and team efforts focus on collaborative software development and testing processes. As a result of its policies, a new major release tends to occur every 2 years with revision releases that fix security issues and important problems. Organization. The Debian project is a volunteer organization with 3 foundational documents. The Debian social contract defines a set of basic principles by which the project and its developers conduct affairs. The Debian Free Software Guidelines define the criteria for free software, and thus what software is permissible in the distribution, as referenced in the social contract. These guidelines have been adopted as the basis of the open source definition. Although it can be considered a separate document for all practical purposes, it formally is part of the social contract. The Debian Constitution describes the organizational structure for formal decision-making within the project, and enumerates the powers and responsibilities of the project leader, the secretary and other roles. Debian developers are organized in a web of trust. There are at present about 1,000 active Debian developers, but it is possible to contribute to the project without being an official developer. Debian is supported by donations made to organizations authorized by the leader. The largest supporter is Software in the Public Interest, the owner of the Debian trademark, manager of the monetary donations and umbrella organization for various other community-free software projects. The project maintains official mailing lists and conferences for communication and coordination between developers. For issues with single packages and other tasks, a public bug tracking system is used by developers and end users. Internet relay chat channels are also used for communication among developers and to provide real-time help. A project leader is elected once per year by the developers. The leader has special powers, but they are not absolute, and appoints delegates to perform specialized tasks. Delegates make decisions as they think is best, taking into account technical criteria and consensus. By way of a general resolution, the developers may recall the leader, reverse a decision made by the leader or a delegate, amend foundational documents and make other binding decisions. The voting method is based on the Clone-proof-Schwarz sequential dropping. Project leadership is distributed occasionally. Brandon Robinson was helped by the Project Scud, a team of developers that assisted the leader, but there were concerns that such leadership would split Debian into two developer classes. Anthony Towns created a supplemental position, second in charge, that shared some powers of the leader. Steve McIntyre was 2IC and had a 2IC himself. One important role in Debian's leadership is that of a release manager. The release team sets goals for the next release, supervises the processes and decides when to release. The team is led by the next release managers and stable release managers. Release assistants were introduced in 2003. Developer recruitment, motivation, and resignation. The Debian project has an influx of applicants wishing to become developers. These applicants must undergo a vetting process which establishes their identity, motivation, understanding of the project's goals, and technical competence. This process has become much harder throughout the years. Debian developers join the project for a number of reasons. Some that have been cited include, Debian is their main operating system and they want to promote Debian, to improve the support for their favorite technology, they are involved with a Debian derivative, a desire to contribute back to the free software community, to make their Debian maintenance work easier. Debian developers may resign their positions at any time or, when deemed necessary, they can be expelled. Those who follow the retiring protocol are granted the emeritus status and they may regain their membership through a shortened new member process. Development procedures. Each software package has a maintainer that may be either one person or a team of Debian developers and non-developer maintainers. The maintainer keeps track of upstream releases, and ensures that the package coheres with the rest of the distribution and meets the standards of quality of Debian. Packages may include modifications introduced by Debian to achieve compliance with Debian policy, even to fix non-Debian specific bugs, although coordination with upstream developers is advised. The maintainer releases a new version by uploading the package to the incoming system, which verifies the integrity of the packages and their digital signatures. If the package is found to be valid, it is installed in the package archive into an area called the pool, and distributed every day to hundreds of mirrors worldwide. The upload must be signed using OpenPGP-compatible software. All Debian developers have individual cryptographic key pairs. Developers are responsible for any package they upload even if the packaging was prepared by another contributor. Initially, an accepted package is only available in the unstable distribution. For a package to become a candidate for the next stable release, it must migrate to the testing distribution by meeting the following: it has been unstable for a certain length of time that depends on the urgency of the changes. It does not have release-critical bugs, except for the ones already present in testing. Release-critical bugs are those considered serious enough that they make the package unsuitable for release. There are no outdated versions and unstable for any release architectures. The migration does not break any packages currently in testing. Its dependencies can be satisfied by packages already in testing or by packages being migrated at the same time. The migration is not blocked by a freeze. Thus, a release-critical bug in a new version of a shared library on which many packages depend may prevent those packages from entering testing, because the updated library must meet the requirements too. From a distribution viewpoint, the migration process happens twice per day, rendering testing in perpetual beta. Periodically, the release team publishes guidelines to the developers in order to ready the release. A new release occurs after a freeze, when all important software is reasonably up to date in the release candidate distribution and any other significant issues are solved. At that time, all packages in the testing distribution become the new stable distribution. Although freeze dates are time-based, release dates are not, which are announced by the release managers a couple of weeks beforehand. A version of a package can belong to more than one distribution, usually testing and unstable. It is possible for a package to keep the same version between stable releases and be part of old stable, testing and unstable at the same time. Each distribution, also called suite, can be seen as a collection of pointers into the package pool mentioned above. Security: the Debian project handles security through public disclosure rather than through obscurity. Debian security advisories are compatible with the Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures Dictionary, are usually coordinated with other free software vendors and are published the same day a vulnerability is made public. Debian has a security audit team that focuses on packages in the stable release looking for security bugs. The stable distribution is supported by the Debian security team. All stable is supported for 1 year. Although Squeeze is not officially supported, Debian is coordinating an effort to provide long-term support until February 2016, 5 years after the initial release, but only for the IA32 and x86-64 platforms. Testing is supported by the testing security team, but does not receive updates in as timely a manner as stable. Unstable security is left for the package maintainers. The Debian project offers documentation and tools to harden a Debian installation both manually and automatically. Security-enhanced Linux support is available but disabled by default. Debian provides an optional hardening wrapper, and does not harden its software by default using GCC features such as PIE and buffer overflow protection, unlike operating systems such as OpenBSD, but tries to build as many packages as possible with hardening flags. The 2008 Openssl Vulnerability: in May 2008, it was revealed that a Debian developer discovered that changes made in 2006 to the random number generator in the Openssl package distributed with Debian and derivatives such as Ubuntu, made a variety of security keys vulnerable to a random number generator attack. The security weakness was caused by changes made by another Debian developer in response to memory debugger warnings. The complete resolution procedure was cumbersome because patching the security hole was not enough. It involved regenerating all affected keys and certificates. Being introduced by Debian, the vulnerability caused anger and embarrassment among Debian developers. History: releases, numbering scheme: stable and old stable releases get minor updates, called point releases. As of July 2014, the stable release is version 7.6, codename Wheezy, and the old stable release is version 6.0.10. codename Squeeze. The numbering scheme for the point releases up to Debian 4.0 was to include the letter O after the main version number and then the number of the point release. For example, the latest point release of version 4.0 is 4.09. This scheme was chosen because a new dotted version would make the old one look obsolete and vendors would have trouble selling their CDs. From Debian 5.0, The numbering scheme of point releases was changed, conforming to the GNU version numbering standard. The first point release of Debian 5.0 was 5.0.1 instead of 5.0.1. The numbering scheme was once again changed for the first Debian 7 update, with the latter being assigned version 7.1. The scheme is no longer in use, but point release announcements include a note about not throwing away old CDs. Code names. The code names of Debian releases are names of characters from the Toy Story films. The unstable distribution is permanently nicknamed Sid, after the emotionally unstable next-door neighbor boy who regularly destroyed toys. Debian 7 was named Wheezy, after the rubber toy penguin in Toy Story 2. The release after Wheezy was named Jessie, after the cowgirl in Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3. Timeline. Debian has made 12 major stable releases. Birth. Debian was first announced on August 16, 1993, by Ian Murdock, who initially called the system the Debian Linux release. The word Debian was formed as a combination of the first name of his then-girlfriend Deborah Lynn and his own first name. Prior to Debian's release, the soft landing Linux system had been a popular Linux distribution and the basis for Slackware. The perceived poor maintenance and prevalence of bugs in SLS motivated Murdock to launch a new distribution. Debian 0.01, released on September 15, 1993, was the first of several internal releases. Version 0.91 was virtually the first public release, providing support through mailing lists hosted at Pixar. The release included the Debian Linux Manifesto, outlining Murdock's view for the new operating system. In it he called for the creation of a distribution to be maintained openly, in the spirit of Linux and GNU. The Debian project released the 0.9x versions in 1994 and 1995. During this time it was sponsored by Free Software Foundation's GNU project. Ian Murdock delegated the base system, the core packages of Debian, to Bruce Perens, and Murdock focused on the management of the growing project. The first ports to non-IA32 architectures began in 1995, and Debian 1.1 was released in 1996. By that time, and thanks to Ian Jackson, the DPKG package manager was already an essential part of Debian. In 1996, Bruce Perens assumed the project leadership. Perens was a controversial leader, regarded as authoritarian and strongly attached to Debian. He drafted a social contract and edited suggestions from a month-long discussion into the Debian Social Contract and the Debian Free Software Guidelines. He initiated the creation of the legal umbrella organization, Software in the Public Interest. He led the conversion of the project from AOut to ELF. He created the BusyBox program to make it possible to run a Debian installer on a single floppy, and wrote a new installer. By the time Debian 1.2 was released, the project had grown to nearly 200 volunteers. Perens left the project in 1998. Ian Jackson became the leader in 1998. Debian 2.0 introduced the second official port, M68K. During this time the first port to a non-Linux kernel, Debian GNU Herd, was started. On December 2, the first Debian Constitution was ratified. Leader election. From 1999, the project leader was elected yearly. The advanced packaging tool was deployed with Debian 2.1. The amount of applicants was overwhelming and the project established the new member process. The first Debian derivatives, namely LibreNet, Coral Linux and Stormx's Storm Linux, were started in 1999. The 2.2 release in 2000 was dedicated to Joel Klecker, a developer who died of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. In late 2000, the project made major changes to archive and release management, reorganizing software archive processes with new package pools, and creating a testing distribution as an ongoing, relatively stable staging area for the next release. In the same year, developers began holding an annual conference called DebConf with talks and workshops for developers and technical users. In July 2002, the project released version 3.0, codenamed Woody, the first release to include cryptographic software, a free licensed KDE and internationalization. During these last release cycles, The Debian project drew considerable criticism from the free software community because of the long time between stable releases. Sedge release. The 3.1 Sedge release was made in June 2005. There were many major changes in this release, mostly due to the long time it took to freeze and release the distribution. This release updated 73% of the software and included over 9,000 new packages. A new installer replaced the aging boot floppies installer with a modular design. This allowed advanced installations including hardware detection, making installations easier for novice users. The installation system boasted full internationalization support as the software was translated into almost 40 languages. An installation manual and release notes were released in 10 and 15 different languages respectively. This release included the efforts of the Debian Openssl Linux, Debian Med and Debian Accessibility subprojects, which raised the number of packages that were educational, had a medical affiliation, and ones made for people with disabilities. In 2006, as a result of a much publicized dispute, Mozilla software was rebranded in Debian, with Firefox becoming Iceweasel and Thunderbird becoming IceDove. The Mozilla Corporation stated that Debian may not use the Firefox trademark if it distributes Firefox with modifications which have not been approved by the Mozilla Corporation. Two prominent reasons that Debian modifies the Firefox software are to change the artwork and to provide security patches. Debian Free Software Guidelines consider Mozilla's artwork non-free. Debian provides long-term support for older versions of Firefox in the stable release, where Mozilla preferred that old versions not be supported but has since included legacy versions of programs. These software programs developed largely by the Mozilla Corporation were rebranded despite having only minor differences in the source code. Debian 4.0 was released April 8, 2007. It included the x86-64 port but dropped support for M68K. The M68K port was, however, still available in the unstable distribution. There were approximately 18,200 binary packages maintained by more than 1,030 Debian developers. Debian 5.0 was released February 14, 2009. It included more than 25,000 software packages. Support was added for Marvel's Orion platform and for netbooks such as the Asus APC, but support was dropped for 32-bit SPARC machines. The release was dedicated to Thiemo Sufa, an active developer and member of the community who died in a car accident on December 26, 2008. For Debian 6.0, a new policy of time-based development freezes on a 2-year cycle was announced. Time-based freezes are intended to allow the Debian project to blend the predictability of time-based releases with its policy of feature-based releases. Having predictable freezes was expected to reduce overall freeze time. The squeeze cycle was intended to be especially short to get into the new cycle. However, this short freeze cycle for squeeze was abandoned. On September 5, 2010, the backports service became official, providing more recent versions of some software for the stable release. Debian continued to support new architectures and add new features with each release. Debian 6.0 was released February 6, 2011, introducing Debian GNUK FreeBSD as a technology preview. Debian 7.0 was released May 4, 2013, featuring multi-arch support. At present, Debian is still in development, working on the unstable distribution. Throughout Debian's lifetime, both the Debian distribution and their website have won various awards from different organizations, including Server Distribution of the Year 2011, the Best Linux Distro of 2011, and a Best of the Net Award for October 1998. See also: Comparison of Linux distributions, DCC Alliance, List of Linux distributions, Notes. References: Coleman, E. Gabriel. 2 Ethical Moments in Debian. Coding Freedom, The Ethics and Aesthetics of Hacking. Princeton University Press. ISBN A978-0-691-14461-0. Retrieved July 31, 2014. Herzog, Raphael. The Debian Administrator's Handbook. Lulu. ISBN A979-10-91414-02-9. Retrieved June 22, 2014. Kraft, Martin F. The Debian System. USA No Starch Press. ISBN A1-59327-069-0. Sheets, Dale. The Debian Linux User's Guide. Linux Press. ISBN A0-9659575-1-9. External links, official website, Debian GNU Linux at DistroWatch.